Finding out your human design can be incredibly validating and eye-opening, but it can also leave you feeling a bit like, okay, now what? In this video, I want to walk you through each of the types, talk about why type isn't the end-all be-all, and give you some examples of what that might look like in everyday life. Now, before we go any further, if you'd like my guidance or to get a reading from me, you can go to viewfrig.com, which is linked in the description below. So let's start by just a brief overview of what is human design. Human design is a system that was brought to us in 1987, and it's an amalgamation of astrology, the Chinese I Ching, Kabbalah, quantum mechanics, and the Hindu chakra system. And so in human design, your energy type is really, it's for how you're meant to interact and engage with the world around you. It refers to the external world and how you engage with that. Most of us are probably familiar with astrology in the sense of, I can say, I'm a Virgo, or you're a Pisces, whatever, but that's just one out of all of the 12 signs. The same goes for human design. When you're talking about your energy type, that's just one small part of it. Okay, first things first, do you know your human design type? If not, that's okay. You can get it for free if you go to jovianarchive.com. I'm gonna walk you through that right now. At the top here where it says what is human design or get your free chart, click get your free chart. And then here you just type in your name, birthday, and when you're typing in the hour, make sure you do that in military time. So if it was 3 p.m., for example, that would be 15. And then the minute, the country, and the city. This is important because the time of birth actually changes things in your chart if it was a different time. So hopefully you can find that on your birth certificate, or you can ask your parents or someone that would know. And then you click calculate. And then it will show you your human design chart here on the left, which is very cool, and you can save that, you can click download. We will start to cover what these different things mean over time, and you'll get a better understanding. Right now, what you're looking at is the type. So you just want to know what your type is, and that is what you need to know for this video. Also, your strategy and your not self theme are things that we will cover in this video also. All right, so let's get back to it. Okay, now that you know your type, let's run through the 5 types. Whichever one you are, pay attention, take some notes on your strategy, maybe jot down some of the examples I mentioned, and then you can start to experiment with that in your own life. Okay. First, we have generators and manifesting generators. Now, these make up the vast majority, around 70% of the population. Their aura type is what's called open and enveloping. You're kind of absorbing everything around you, which means that your environment and the people that you're around can really affect you. You might say yes to too many things, or just try to take it all in and be easily overwhelmed. Now, the reason also that it is open and enveloping is because generators and manifesting generators have the ability to be very magnetic, and they're meant to draw things to them. So their strategy is called to respond. Most of us are conditioned to think that if we want to be successful, we have to go out there, we have to hustle, we have to take action, we have to make it happen. That's not correct for generators or manifesting generators. That can be some conditioning that you really have to overcome, but you don't have to wait that long because things are constantly coming to us. Whatever you can take in through your 5 senses, that's information that the universe is giving to you that you can respond to. And the way that you respond is through listening to your authority. So that's something that I'll cover in a future video about your authority and how to best make decisions using your embodied wisdom rather than like trying to logic through your mind. Now, the thing that makes generators and manifesting generators so magnetic is actually that they generate energy, hence the name. When you're doing things you love, when you're doing things that excite you, you can actually generate more energy. And then the people around you can pick up on that and can use that energy as well. So doing things that light you up, those things that you lose track of time doing, that you could do all day, that you would do for free, that you do for fun, those are the things that you really want to focus most of your time and energy on, because it's very important to do the things that light you up to the exclusion of the things that don't. So as much as possible, I know it's hard, I know we all have to make money and we have jobs, as much as possible, try to minimize the time spent doing things that drain you, because that's going to lead to burnout. And it's also going to make it more difficult for you to notice the things that do light you up, because your battery is going to be drained in general. Now, I want to talk about the difference between generators and manifesting generators. Generators have more of a tendency to want to master something. This might look like working in a single field for your entire career and really becoming renowned in something. It might look like mastering one career and then moving on to another. Because our lives are relatively long, you could actually spend 10, 15 years in 2 or 3 careers and really master those. So it's possible to reach a certain level of mastery and then decide like, okay, I've had enough of this and move on. And that is correct for a generator. So being a generator doesn't mean that you only like to do one thing. And it doesn't mean necessarily that you only do one thing in your career either. It could mean that you have a singular thread that you are contemplating and mastering throughout your life. Maybe you are an artist and you teach workshops and you do mentoring, but the thread that ties it all together is maybe examining relationships between the internal and the external, between the said and the unsaid. And you might notice that you're doing several different things and think, well, doesn't that make me more of a manifesting generator? But you are following a singular thread that's kind of your thesis. Manifesting generators, therefore, don't have that same drive toward mastery. They have more of a sense of urgency to them. So they're likely to skip steps. They just want to get there, get in, get what they need, and then move on to the next thing. So they might be your typical like multi-hyphenates, or I've heard them called slashies, like a chef / Uber driver / fill in the blank. They might make up a job that doesn't even exist, because that's really what manifesting generators are here to do, kind of like open the box to what we think is possible and say that you can do this and this and this, and if all of that works for you, that's perfect. It doesn't have to be heavy or hard. It doesn't have to take decades. You don't have to have a doctorate degree. Manifesting generators are here to show us that a new path can exist. So like I mentioned, with generators and manifesting generators, everything you desire is already kind of orbiting around you. It's just waiting for that space to drop in. So it's about saying no as much as you say yes, maybe even more so than you say yes. Giving yourself the space by clearing your plate of the things that aren't lighting you up allows those things that do light you up to come in. And I know, because I'm a manifesting generator, that this can be very difficult. There's so many things that I want to learn and do, and I often have multiple projects going on at once. So to just allow that space and time can be a challenge, but it's something I'm working on. So, I'll let you know how that goes. So when it comes to the strategy for generators and manifesting generators, you want to wait for life to bring you things, which is happening all the time, a phone call, an email, a sign you see in a window when you're walking, and then you respond to that, which means you feel into your body and wait for it to give you a response. Sometimes it might be a sound like yes or no, or it might be like uh-huh or mm-hmm. Your sound is going to be unique to you. So just try to bring more awareness to those moments when you do feel some sort of expansion or like physical pull towards something, and see if a sound naturally arises. It might just be a sensation somewhere in your body. Just try to notice what your unique response is like. A sound, a sensation, a physical pull. Try to pick up on those things, and if you do, please leave a comment below and let me know what it was and what it felt like. You might notice some things you don't respond to at all, and that's okay, because not everything is something that we need to respond to. So the not self for a generator or a manifesting generator is called frustration, and it can be an actual like I am frustrated, or it can often come across as like a stuckness, a block. Just like an energetic frustration, kind of like being in a rut. So when frustration shows up, it's not something to be upset about, like, oh no, it's just information. It's saying, okay, some things are not aligned. I've gone off my path. How can I clear space to get back into those things that feel good? And sometimes you may have said yes to something, and at the moment it did feel like a good thing, but now it's been a few months or a few years. And so check back in, like, is that still lighting you up? Maybe it's not. So you can clear that space and get back to doing satisfying work instead. One big sign for generators to look out for that they are on the right path is being lucky. Like in general, you just might be a very lucky person, or you might have synchronicities popping up. For example, I was talking to a college friend of mine about a classmate that we had gone to school together, and then I saw him randomly a few weeks later in Los Angeles, even though he didn't even live in Los Angeles. That was a synchronicity that showed me that, hey, there's some alignment happening here. But in general, that signal that you are in your lane, you are aligned, is the feeling of satisfaction. So it's a feeling of contentedness, of doing a great day's work and feeling really proud and satisfied. Being able to hit the pillow every night, feeling like, yes, I've done what I needed to do for the day and I feel good about it. And ultimately, that feeling of satisfaction is going to come through you responding correctly instead of trying to use your mind, which is going to end up ultimately being unsatisfying. Now, I want to talk about some conditioning or some blocks or some things that you might run into as a generator or a manifesting generator. So as a generator, just because you're so capable and you have so much energy, people are going to notice that, and they're going to come to you and they're going to want your help on things, and they're going to ask you to do things. And because you have that open, enveloping aura, you're very likely going to say yes. And we're also conditioned to please people and to be helpful. That's one block that you need to watch out for, is just people pleasing, saying yes to things because you can do it, sure. So you're not really responding to, well, is this aligned for me? And so just taking that pause before you just automatically say yes to something, to check in with yourself. Does this feel aligned? Does this light me up? Am I pulled toward it? And then you can say yes. Otherwise, you can say, no, I'm so honored. Thank you for thinking of me, but I have already a few projects on my plate right now. Something like that. For manifesting generators, they get that same conditioning as well, but because they have they're a hybrid between generators and manifestors, they receive conditioning from the manifestor side too. And that can look like playing small, not speaking up, thinking like, well, other people need to say or to talk, and I'll just be behind the scenes and keep quiet and not cause any ripples. So that's something to watch out for if you notice yourself doing that. And then, a lot of us are just living in that toil of the daily grind, and we go from computer screen to TV screen without much satisfaction in between. And so it can lead to a sort of gnawing discontentment and frustration. And when this shows up, again, it's about clearing the space as much as possible, those things that really don't feel good, that don't excite us, so that we can see what the universe brings. And then sometimes you might feel frustrated, but it's not actually your not self. Rather, it's just that you've met the edge of your comfort zone or your skill level. For example, I want to become conversationally fluent in Spanish. I've studied it in school, but I've gotten past the part of it being easy. And now it's more challenging and it's frustrating when I can't get it right. So that kind of frustration is not my not self, because when I check in, do I still want to learn Spanish? Sí, yes, I do. And so it's just more of an indication that I've hit the edge of my comfort zone. And so in that case, when you're feeling that kind of frustration and you check in with yourself, then you want to keep going and push past that. Okay, now I'm going to give you some examples of generators and manifesting generators. Coco Chanel is a generator, famous fashion designer. The brand Chanel obviously is her namesake. She was actually credited in the post-World War I era with defining this new style that kind of took over. Another generator, Cindy Sherman, popular, well-known photographer who really grappled with the idea of identity and what that looks like in a series of self-portraits that she's done for maybe 40 years now. Another artist, Georgia O'Keeffe, is a manifesting generator, and you can kind of see her style changed. I don't know that she was committed and singularly focused on one theme, even though she did remain an artist, for most of her life. Other famous generators include Shakira, and you can compare that to Jennifer Lopez, who is a manifesting generator. And you can see that while Shakira has been singing and consistent with that since she was 13 or 14, I think, Jennifer Lopez she took kind of a break from singing in music and did a lot of acting, and now she's back into music, but she's also got a skincare line or something. So you can see that manifesting generator difference there. And then lastly, I wanted to bring in some characters. So we have Buffy Summers is a generator, and she really has that singular drive of protecting, saving the world, right?
I'm the Slayer, the chosen one.
But then Phoebe Buffay is a manifesting generator. She did her music, and then she was also doing massages, and I think maybe even something else she ended up doing. So it's just a lot more of that variation. Manifesting generators really love the new and the novel, change, play. They can sometimes come across to others as being flaky, And that can actually be a fear of theirs that holds them back because they think, oh, if I change too many times, I will seem flaky.
That's true, I am flaky.
That's just something to be aware of and not something that you really need to worry about, because if you are truly responding, following what lights you up, and doing the things that you love, people will be magnetically drawn to you because you are a generator or a manifesting generator. And then lastly, in this section, I just want to address two generators could feel very different, even though they're the same energy type. So like I said in the beginning, energy type is just one of the things. And so I don't want you to get too hung up on this aspect because we're gonna layer on the other stuff. But for now, just get familiar with what your energy type aura is. Like, is it open and enveloping? So you're kind of taking everything in and you need a lot of discernment. And then what is your strategy, and are you using that in your day-to-day life? And then the next step after that is going to be your inner authority, and I'll cover that in the next video. So be sure to subscribe, ring the bell to get those notifications. And if you like this video, give it a like. Definitely leave a comment if you need me to cover anything more, if you have questions, if you have thoughts for future videos. I want to hear about them. And if you'd like my help on experimenting with your human design, you'd like an in-depth reading from me, or for me to kind of guide you in your own experiment, then check out viewfrig.com, which is linked in the description below.